All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ushanka Show Live, celebrating 89,000 subscribers. Actually, at the moment of this live, it's 89,990 subscribers. So I realized I better do a quick live before we're going to hit the really big number, 90,000. So that will be coming up soon. Hopefully, maybe in this coming Sunday, although I work. I might be able to find time in the afternoon and we'll do 90,000. I think we'll get 10,000 subscribers by then. So I apologize I didn't make it in advance. I wasn't sure if I can do live today, but as I said, I just looked at my phone and I saw that we are really close to 90,000. So that's pretty exciting. Looks like we got right away about 15 people just jumped right in. So hello again and thank you for joining Ushanka Show. Welcome to another episode of live. If you have any questions, anything else, please post in your thing. Make sure the sound is good. I got this good looking microphone, should be working. So as I said, 10 people. Yeah, we're exactly 10 people away from 90,000. So that's 11. Oh, somebody just unsubscribed. Good move. Good move. Whoever it is, Comrade Beria, good move. So we got comments already. So congrats, comrade. Thank you so much. Congratulations, 89,000. Thank you. Appreciate that. Big thank you for interesting story. Thank you. What was dating like in the USSR? It's a good question. I already had a video on it. I already got ready for my dating. So there's a comment coming up. I mean, it's nothing unusual in the dating part. Let's see, copy right here. In the cities, what was what's called in the West gold diggers. In the Soviet Union, it was apartment digging because quite young girls coming from out of town, like from the villages, and they realized it's really hard to find to get an apartment. Although housing was inexpensive, but you need to get into housing first before you can enjoy how it's cheap. So there quite a few girls would chase and marry city boys just for to live in an apartment, and of course then if guy is okay, they'll stay married. Otherwise, have a kid, then you divorce and you split apartment. So instead of gold diggers, we had a kvartira diggers. So that was one thing that if you were living in a city, especially like capital Moscow, it was a special the case, Kiev, somewhat Leningrad, and parents would be teaching like, hey, you need to watch out for those out town girls because you might think they after you, but they after our apartment. So you need to be careful. So, and I said I just posted the link for dating in the USSR. It's right below. So thank you for your question. I gonna hit that 100,000 soon. Soon, I don't know about that. Right now we're adding 3,000 subscribers per month, so at least 3-4 months. But yeah, maybe before the end of this year. So who knows? I don't want to kind of make plans anymore because YouTube is one day they love me, one day they hate me. So the movement it goes crazy. So we got more people joining. Nick Adams, hello, greetings. Floyd Wilkinson, congrats, thank you so much. Okay, so there's a question from the chosen one. Hi, Sergi. And that's another thing. When I came to America, and I'm telling about in my book, American Dodge 1985, I realized how my name is not working really well in American environment. So I just started CJ. I was telling people just call me CJ because from Sergey to Sergi, my name could be molested in many ways. All right, so there's a question. You were talking about making video about relationship between Sikorsky and Polikarpov. Do you have any plans? Yeah, actually, good question. And I'm surprised you still remember. I was actually planning about not their relations, but kind of trace how their life went because they were good friends. They went together to college. Well, Sikorsky went to Kiev Polytechnical Institute, the same place I went many years later. but they were friends. They together were designing planes. But when Russia was having trouble, civil war, revolution, Sikorsky decided to pack his bags and leave. And you might recognize the last name Sikorsky. That's the Sikorsky helicopters. The guy is originally from Russia. Well, at that time was called Tsar Russia, but he grew up in Ukrainian part in Ukraine. Went to Kiev Polytechnical Institute, so he became quite wealthy, I believe, by creating Sikorsky helicopter company. He was the guy who, I believe, Sikorsky, I'm not sure in the world, but for sure in Russia, he was the very first person to come up with the concept, and he designed first actually a helicopter thing that took off, lifted from Earth, from land. Meanwhile, Polikarpov stayed in the Soviet Union, and he didn't have a good life. Let's put it that way. He was a great aviation constructor, but yeah, let me write it down. I brought the paper because that's a quite an interesting topic just to see what happens to people that stayed and people who left. Sikorsky and Polikarpov. Yeah, and Polikarpov, one of his problem, well, not problem, he's just kind of his character that he was a straight shooter. He would tell you in your face. He didn't care if it's Stalin. And there's a story goes that one time, uh, so Polikarpov is the I-16, I believe he designed that plane. I-15, it's a Polikarpov airplanes. Before, for a while, the way they were named planes, they were not named after the constructor people, but after what it does. Like, F-16, it's a fighter, right? B-15 or B-29, it's a bomber. So similarly in Soviet Union, if it's E, it's истребитель, so it's fighter. And then later they allowed to have a like SU, or MiG, MiGs. And before that, in the 30s, it was just same like in America, F or E. So the Polikarpov guy was in the car because he was a famous designer. He designed the best fighter at that time in the Soviet Union, I-15 and I-16. And they were riding in the car together with Stalin. And Stalin said something like, like, yeah, you have all these degrees education, and I even didn't finish church school, and look at me where I'm now. And Polikarpov look at him, is like, yeah, I could tell that you never finished your education. And Stalin never liked him after that, although he was a great, aviation designer. That comment like that, yeah, I could tell that you never finished school. Stalin, he never forgives, just like Putin in Kremlin right now. Okay, so let's see what else. Hello, Sergey. Do you listen to Kino in the USSR? What did people think about the band? Of course, yeah, I was a perfect age to really being taken by Kino by Viktor Tsoi. I had his LPs. I mean, at that time, his album Grupa Krovi, Blood Type, was just insanely popular. He kind of had this, not too heavy rock music, was just perfect mix. I don't know, say like pop music and rock music together, and good texts. So yeah, of course, that was end of 80s, early 90s. Kino was huge. Yeah, that was Pirimian, all the songs. Yeah, I think I lost his LPs. I couldn't find them, but yeah, it was a big deal. Once again, planning to make a video about that too. My next video about brushing teeth, чистить зубы. Someone requested, and I was like, wow, it's actually quite an interesting topic too. But all right. So yeah, he was super popular. Viktor Tsoin was a big tragedy when he died so early. Do you want to visit Ukraine again, even war isn't over? Well, I don't really like to visit Kiev. I was never a big fan of Kiev. I grew up in the city. I like going to stay with my mom out in the country, and she's right next to the border with Russia in the northern Ukraine. And I don't think it's a good idea to go there now. There's really nothing to do. They don't want you to go in the forest because there's troops, there's a mines. They don't want you to go towards the river. So pretty much, I would like to spend time with my family, my parents, but there was like literally nothing. You'll be just trapped in your house. And of course, then if they see, well, I'm kind of 52 now, so I'm not that conscription age, but there could be stopping and asking like why you're not fighting, and then you have to show your documents that you're American citizen. So, anyways, okay, moving along. There's a hello Sergey. I'm listening to the book An Audible called Spy and a Traitor about Oleg Gordievsky. Were people in the Soviet Union familiar with the story when he defected? Well, usually they try to keep it down low because it was embarrassing if they're, some big KGB guy, excuse me, kind of defected. So we don't know much about the traitors at that time. It's only when Perestroika started, then they started publishing. They always publish stories about like American or British spies that went like Philby and others that worked for Soviet Union. Then they managed to run away. So those were presented as heroes, but they didn't like talk much about traitors. There'll be just silent treatment. And I think a while back I made a video about Soviet Universamy stores, and the guy who designed the very first in Kiev Universam, so that's like almost like a grocery supermarket. He was Jewish and he left for Israel, so he was removed completely. Like there was never mentioned that he was actually come up with this cool concept how the building looks. So that was a famous thing. Same with Sikorsky, by the way. They really didn't like to mention him, although they were so proud because before revolution he designed the very first large bomber, like I think a four engine bomber, Ilya Muromets. So he did a lot of advanced aviation stuff before the war, then before the revolution. Then he left, so they wanted to talk about it, like, oh, look at this Ilya Muromets, but they will never mention that it was designed by Sikorsky, Igor Sikorsky, who left. So it's all this propaganda, they always walk this fine line to not to mention people that left because it doesn't look good. Another question. Hi, Michelle. Michelle Corbin here. She's congratulations, 89,000. Well, we're almost there. Well, 89 we're there, but almost 90. That'll be interesting if we get to 90,000 while we're yapping here, or I'm yapping. Let's see. Nope, we're good. Scene is safe. So there's a question. Graduation, comrade, how has the Russian language changed since one? Well, I could tell you, when I was going back and forth, of course, I didn't notice much changes. Languages develop, languages change. Like even my kids, they come up with new words, their friends talking differently, and I had to ask, like, cool is, they don't say cool anymore, and there's other words that I have to actually ask what that means. And similarly, when I'll be like going home every 2-4 years, I would notice language change. For example, back in my day, we used to say kruta, which is kind of, you can translate like sharp, and I was like cool. Oh, kruta, или крутой чувак, cool dude. And when I went home, my brother in Kiev was looking at, I don't remember what, my camera, and he said, "Oh, that's a яркая штучка, bright item." Like, and I'd like, why is it bright? It's actually black in color. So he had to explain me. So now they say bright instead of cool. So yeah, there's definitely a language change. It's living organism, that's, of course, mass media and a lot of English language poured in Russian and Ukrainian because people went online, and a lot of terminology they'll be using, I didn't realize what they came from. Like they say copy pasta, and I could understand what the hell is copy pasta, but it's a copy and paste. But they just read it the way it says, and they just say copy pasta. And a lot of these words, which I couldn't understand, like what they came from, it's all basically English copy paste to Russian language, and because they read it differently, it just sounds weird. A lot of weird. Like lols, of course, they just took it. Although if you make a Russian abbreviation, we'll make it lols, but they took lols, and for them, the same laughing out loud and stuff like that. So yeah, language is changing. and I'm like falling behind. And I have a couple people that I sometimes ask them, "Hey, what that means?" Like for example, okay, so time for anecdote, time for the joke that actually I learned. So I noticed this expression when in chats or people commenting, and it says, uh, "You should or put your speedos on or underwear on or take your cross off." And I couldn't understand. Или крестики снимите, или трусы наденьте. That's how it sounds in Russian. So, or you need to put your underwear on or take your cross off. And I was like, I had to ask, like, hey, what is this people saying? There's some story behind it. But it's apparently there's the joke. So the Jewish guy goes to banya, it's like sauna, right? And so he is circumcised and wears the Christian cross, like so. So he sits among other guys and they look at him and like, okay, you need or either put your underwear on or you need to take that cross off because if we look at you and you're circumcised, like a Jewish person, then you wear the cross like you're, Russian Orthodox. So this expression when somebody is can make their mind or they kind of like on trying to get one butt on two chairs, and there's another expression, this like you need to make your mind or put your underwear on or take your cross off. Или крестик снимите, или трусы наденьте. So that was kind of had to learn, ask. I don't want to ask, on chat because then people will be making fun of me. So this is the way I was like, hey, what that means? Because I don't know and I don't want to ask. Okay. All right. So we got the first donation from Emily. Thank you so much. I don't have any question, but there is some money. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Oh, money is always good. Unfortunately, we all live in a capitalism society where money pretty much make the world go round. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. Let me see. We just move. What else we got for questions? So yeah, it's a lot of times it's a challenge for me because sometimes I think in Russian. I'm trying to improve my kind of like restore my Ukrainian language for obvious reasons. So it's challenging, and sometimes I have dreams like there's the places mixed up. There's a Ukraine and Michigan. It's like, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I wonder if you have any recollection about Dr. Sausage you could share. I honestly have no idea about Dr. Sausage, some kind of dirty hint or something, but I honestly am not sure what you're talking about. If you talk about Doktorskaya Kalbasa, it's not Dr. Sausage. It's the name of the kilbasa. So that's pretty much like a bologna style kilbasa, bologna, and I would call them Doktorskaya Kalbasa. So that's a doctor style or something like that. So like they have a Moskovskaya Kalbasa, Moscow sausage, but it doesn't mean that it was made in Moscow. It's just the way it's made, specific recipe. So there was a Doktorskaya Kalbasa, and that was supposedly like doctors would recommend because it's easy on your stomach. So it's bologna, one for one, same flavor, same everything. It's just smooth, pink, grind whatever is grinded. I liked it always. I still like bologna. My wife think it's ridiculous, but once in a while I have a cravings, and I'll buy bologna. And yeah, it's or I can fry it or just make a bologna sandwich. But yeah, that's so it's not a doctor sausage. It's a doktorskaya sausage or doctor's sausage. Okay, Joy Wheel, where you were younger, did you ever meet any veterans of Russian Civil War? No, I don't think so. You know, the problem is my mom was like a oops kid. So my grandparents were born in 1905, so of course they way too young to be Civil War veterans. And my mom was born in 1948, so my grandma was already 43. So they didn't plan it on a second kid. So when I was, became, 10, 15, uh, it's already 70s. So people who fought Civil War, they're already dead by then, most of them. At least I don't know anybody. We had plenty of World War II veterans in our village, but I don't think I met anyone. Guys usually don't last long. We had some women that lived in their 80s and 90s, usually male, mid 70s, and they all die. So, smoking, drinking, and just a harsh lifestyle, pretty much Amish lifestyle. With additional smoking and drinking, you don't last long. So, no, never met anyone that way. Have you heard of the infamous statement, "We don't have sex in the USSR"? Well, absolutely. Actually, I had a video on that topic. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Oh yeah, that was a meme. There was a very first Soviet meme is "No sex in the Soviet Union." Yes, and I have a uh, let's see. I swear I had a sex education, sex in the Soviet city. I swear I had a video on this topic. For some reason, now it doesn't coming out. Don't. I don't know. I can't find. I know I made a video about it. Yeah, of course. There was Donahue and Posner, like this live over satellite. People asking questions, and yes, the American woman asked, what do you think about sex? And this older lady, there's no sex in the Soviet Union, and everyone laughed. And this younger lady, like, oh, they're talking about intercourse, but yeah, for a lot of people, word sex was dirty. So yeah, that was a big joke, big meme. I mean, that became a lot of laugh about that. So yes, definitely I remember that. Wasn't young people. There was all the whole mixed picture. I bet you it's on YouTube. They have it. Let's see, Posner, Donahue. Yeah, that was fun times. That's one of the things I'm saying. The perestroika was great, is because we had this opportunity to talk to Americans, have this live channels. So yeah, that was fantastic. Of course, Posner turned out to be a KGB dude. 1986. Space Bridge. Yeah, that's what's called Space Bridge. Yeah, there's 47 minutes of that. Let me see. I'll shut the sound off. I'll post the link if you're curious. Fantastic. Yeah, we really enjoyed watching it. Copy. So this is October 23, 1986. That's maybe the one that was no sex. No sex. So yeah, that was hilarious. Yeah, because lady was really like, ooh, yeah, that was a good laugh. Okay, we got another donation from my friend Koala. Thank you so much. It's very sad and angry at what Russians did to Odessa. They recently bombed famous Orthodox Cathedral 2 days ago. Well, that was, similar to what Nazi Germany was doing, bombing London. They were losing a war, so they tried to punish whatever they could reach. While Ukrainians, blow up ammo depots, they shoot the cities. They try to destroy power infrastructure. So yeah, extremely sad situation, and I said I hope maybe by the end of the year we'll be done with this war. Ukraine could prevail, and we'll see what happens after that. But yeah, it's just the whole reality of as a person who grew up and had so many friends, Russian friends, just it's just so hard to comprehend how that end up happening, what's happening. Because yeah, if somebody will tell me back in 90s or even earlier that there'll be a war, full-blown war between Russia and Ukraine, I'll say it's not a funny joke. Question from David: what do you think about Girkin getting arrested in Russia? So Girkin is actually it's a Girkin Strelkov. He was used a lot of Strelkov. He's like a second last name. He's the guy who started the war in Ukraine back in 2014. Official Russian propaganda was pushing the narrative that it's a civil war, but the Girkin guy, he and his goons, there was like I'm not sure how many people, but they came armed to Slavyansk and they took over the local police station, put out the Russian flags, and they started creating troubles, and that's how it went downhill. So he was at the beginning. He's former FSB, so it's like a KGB officer. Before that, he worked a long time in Moldova, creating People's Republic there, Pridnestrovskaya Respublika. So this guy is he's a bad character, and he did that for a long time. He participated in the Crimea occupation. He was there, so but he was disappointed with the Russian government that they were not like involved in a full-blown war because Russia still keeps the language of military operation. So he was pretty harsh critic of Putin for quite a long time, and recently he was really saying like uh, pretty trying to think what is the word like not a nice words towards Putin. So I guess they had enough. So they started wrapping up all the people that were kind of like ultra patriots. So there's a Russian patriot that support war and Putin, support special military operation on Putin, and there's a they call them turbo patriots. Those guys they want full blown war, nukes, and just like a total annihilation style war, and that's kind of Girkin side. So they were super upset. I mean, for Ukraine, it's neither good or bad. But yeah, he needs, and he was actually the guy who was part of the shooting down the Malaysian airliner back in 2000. Was it 14? I think happened. That was yeah. He was one of the. They discovered that he was one of the participators. Okay, so moving along. My question: I had a friend who was born in Moldova, USSR. Yep. I did many things. He did many things differently than we do. Most odd these included recycling, reusing condoms. Was that truly a common thing? uh, I managed to walk out of the Soviet Union rumble when it's everything collapsed. I walked out of it, and I was still a virgin. So I can't tell you about the Soviet people. I had a video on this topic, and Soviet condoms were poor quality. Oh, don't have it. I'm probably under birth control. Let me see. Birth. Back the truth about birth control in the Soviet Union. Okay, I have this video for you. So birth control coming up. So there'll be a link. You can watch the whole video. He probably had access to the Western goods. Like as I said, the Soviet condoms were horrible, and they came in packets of 2, and they had talc. They had talc, like like a baby powder talc. So it was dry rubber product. So you can imagine how comfortable it was to put it on. And rubber was the same factory was making galoshes, like rubber boots, galoshes, and condoms. So quality wasn't there. I know at least one kid that was a kid because condom failed. So, but if you able to get a good stuff like from India, Indian condoms, those were lubricated, thin rubber, and they were not cheap. At least like if you buy it at the regular price, will be 50 kopecks. Soviet ones 2 kopecks, but on the black market it could be a ruble or 5. So there was probably a habit of you buy a condom for 5 rubles, that's like a bottle of vodka. Picture you buy a condom for $20, a single condom. Of course, you're gonna wash it. So it's not wasn't a common thing, but if he probably had a habit of doing it because he had a good quality condoms back in Moldova, and he just does it out of habit. Like my bad habit here in America. Yeah, we're not gonna talk about. I hate throwing away nice containers. It's anytime there's a good container, I'll look at it. It's like, okay, how can I use it? Because it has a lid, has a twisty cap. I just can't throw it away just like that. It really like hurts me. So he probably similar to me. He has the same attitude towards condoms. So that'll be my guess. So it's an interesting question. Thank you so much. It's kind of funny. But yeah, this is every time there's a container, I'll look at it first before, like, okay, I gotta throw it away. I need to actually put it somewhere. It doesn't look cool. There we go. All right. Okay. Russian condoms. That's funny. In Russian language, condom is gandon. And we also use that word if you want to call somebody an asshole, you also use that word. No ты гандон. So you're a condom, you're an asshole. So if you have any Russian friends or Russian speaking friends and they get you make you angry, just tell them you are a real condom. Ты настоящий гандон. You're a real gandon. Not condom, but gandon. And they'll appreciate that. Okay, moving along. Next question from Adam. What was Soviet black market like? Did you need to know someone to buy it from? It was open. Yeah, black market. That's why it's called black market. It's not open to everyone. You need to know people. Usually, to be word of mouth, or guys will be like some people work their college, so everyone knows. Hey, there's Vanya guy. He's fartsovshik. He buys goods from the foreigners, jeans, chewing gum, cigarettes, and he sells them. So you just like you approach him, or you send a friend to talk to him. So yeah, black market existed, but it wasn't like you think like a flea market. You just go and hey, there's a black market and people selling stuff illegally. So yeah, it's usually was or they'll be kind of like this. Um, like I went quite often. We had it was called the market collectionerov, so for collectors. So once a week on Saturday and Sunday in some specific area in the park, there'll be collectors gathering together, selling matchbox cars, selling old cameras, antiques, coins, paper money. And that was unofficial and sometimes if they see there's a militia, police, they'll just like sparrows just spread around, but you knew that every day, every Saturday and Sunday, there'll be meeting there, and you can come by. If you collect coins, you can go and they have little albums and they show you what they have, and so that was kind of like that existed. And then once a month, there'll be like a bigger one in a different location. That's when the people from the whole other towns collectors will get together and they swap, trade, buy, sell. And I don't know if I told you, this goes after the Soviet Union collapsed. But I was doing pretty decent business selling American dollars here in America. So my friend, he lived at that time in Kiev, and he'll go to collector's market and he'll buy American dollars, send it to me, and I'll sell them here on eBay and make good money. Of course, those dollars were old, like 1923 silver certificates, golden certificates, and at that time, you could buy 1923 gold, silver certificate, $1 bill. You can buy for $2, $5, depending on the condition. Here, 20, 30, $40 on eBay. So we were doing pretty good business. So that's yeah. So there was not like a black market that everyone goes to. Yeah, you needed to know people, stuff like that. Next question from Floyd. What do you know of the Romanov family, and has their ultimate deaths at hands of Bolsheviks affected modern politics in any shape? Not really. I mean, it was so long ago. So, when I was growing up, Soviet Union, we never talked about it. It was pretty much, they had concerns that it's pretty much they needed to kill them all to stop any chance for the anyone who want to restore, this самодержавие, so Tsar regime. I don't say it's a good thing, but this is what, because he was like a symbol, almost like a saint. So yeah, what they did, of course, Bolsheviks, then they did to more people, same thing. But yeah, it's didn't affect at all, and I don't think we had any rumors going on. There's somebody surface that may be surviving daughter or somebody of Romanov. So it's only after the Soviet Union collapsed and Russia kind of returned to back to its roots, changed the flags. They have the eagle again with two heads. Then it's kind of they started talking about the topic. Romanovs, I think they recovered the bodies and made the Nicholas the saint because that Russia now is like before Putin were looking for identity, and then they kind of went back to their origins and made Romanovs like victims and saints. But like back in my days, maybe we never talked about it. All right, Vivian. I found your channel because of researching for social public housing policies. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on first source about subsidization funding of housing construction post Stalin. I have quite a few videos on this topic. I don't know if you found them. I think it's actually a playlist called Soviet Housing. Let me see if I check. Uh, it's definitely amazing, great thing that Khrushchev did to the Soviet people because Stalin cared less about building enough housing for Soviet people. He actually used housing as a tool. You get this job, you get apartment. Then if you're in trouble, we kill you and take away your apartment. So, and that's what Khrushchev did. They poured a lot of money into housing and they built enormous amount. I mean, super cheap. But when you live in sharing I have a whole playlist called Soviet Housing. I'll post the link. So yeah, it's what most Soviet people and former Soviet people they don't like Khrushchev, as we say, Nikita Khrushchev. But I think his biggest achievement is he started treating Soviet people as people again. Because Stalin, for him, population was a material. Just like I have iron ore, I have diamonds, gold, and I have so many millions of people. I utilize them how I need. If I lose a million here, not a big deal. You know, buy factories, not a big deal. Great about Khrushchev that he saw people as people, and he like we need to do something because situation with housing was really bad, and they did a huge improvement. Long run, if you provide cheap housing, it wasn't free; it was cheap, like 10% of the your salary. But that means the government was never getting return. So if you constantly pour money into housing and you never get anything back to compensate expenses, at some point it becomes like this huge uh, load on you, right? So it's growing, and then all homes getting older, you have more maintenance to do. I don't know if anyone was a landlord ever. I actually happened to be a landlord in America here for about 10 years. And you need to get enough money out of renters to maintain the place. And that's why a lot of Soviet housing by like 70s, 80s was not looking that good because, it looks good while it's new. But since government doesn't have enough money coming in, because it's so they're trying to make it so affordable, they just didn't have money to maintain it properly. So that's kind of the problem. But I just want to say about housing, because Cabrini Green, all the other housing projects in Chicago, St. Louis, all the large cities, New York, it was pretty much ultimate failure. And the problem was that I think, well, I'm positive, is in Soviet Union to get an apartment in those projects, that was like the all you could dream of. Like this was the thing to have because you're gonna have running water, you're gonna have a bathroom, and if you have a house on its own, like there will be outhouse, no running water. So it was pretty much like a premium housing is to get into that housing in apartment buildings. So we didn't have just poor people who lived there; everyone lived there, and so that was a yeah. We had our bad apples, maybe one person among 36 that was drinking. He kept his apartment dirty. There may be some issues with cockroaches, or maybe he would flood his apartment periodically. But generally, all the other people, his neighbors, would be giving him a hard time so it kind of kept to maintain the apartments in a pretty decent shape. Like I remember first time I describe it in my book, American Diaries 1995, when I saw the housing projects in Chicago. When I was in Chicago, I was like, hey, I was trying to explain you where I live. I live exactly the same place like that. And the farmer, Glenn, looked at me like, you live in a project? And I was like, what is project? And then I look at those houses, and it's like windows burn out. It's like every building has at least two, three windows that burn out. It's like, would they like to play with matches? Why does that look so horrible? Then I learned more about it. But yeah, in Soviet Union, there was kind of nice thing is just because everyone lived there. So you have an engineer, and you have a professor, and you have a blue collar worker. They all lived in those apartments. So that kind of why it was, I can say, it was a success. So yeah, that was it. One of the. I'm planning to make a video. Maybe I'll get 100 things, everything good about Soviet Union. It's just I want to make for those people who are upset that I don't say enough of nice things. I'll just come up with maybe 100 things, maybe less. But what was good in the Soviet Union, one of course was affordable housing. And I know, like when my wife, she's an American, when she first time came and saw our apartment, she got depressed. And that was like, oh, we have a big, nice 3-room apartment, but for her it was like a little cave. So, but for us it was great, after what my family went through housing. So yeah, Vivian, I posted the playlist down below. It's every single video made about Soviet housing, and I talk about Khrushchevka. The question from Adam: what are the most exotic things what you could find on the Soviet black market? Well, you need to understand that people, if they brought something from abroad, it wasn't about exotic. It's about to sell it and make money. So you got Levi's jeans, you got you know chewing gum, Marlboro cigarettes, uh, whatever. So if whatever's brought from abroad, they will be brought because people wanted to make money. So I wouldn't. They never hunted for exotic items. There probably would be something, remnants from the World War II. There was people dealing with those items. But I said I never was part of the black market. There was pretty much black market existed not for exotic things or illegal things. It's just for the things you couldn't get uh, legally, like or at all. Like there'll be people selling Kiev cameras. They are 150 rubles at the store, but good luck finding them. But you can buy them for 200 or 250 on the black market. So it wasn't about exotic items. It was about items that had the market price attached to it and become a black market item. Let's see. Got Romanov, housing. I have been told my Russian that I learned in high school in 1990 sounds dated. So yeah, I already answered the question. Yes, language did change. I mean, if you learn official Russian language, uh, I don't think it will be dated. It will be like more like official. But the youth right now, they use so many English words, and they change them Russian style. So it's pretty crazy. I'm a kind of I don't like that trend when language takes the like English words without trying to actually make them like car tuning. They just took and say tuning. It's like you can come up with the Russian word that means the same, but the worst in my experience, like people who are active on Instagram, they say story. There's a Russian word istoria, but they say, yeah, посмотрите мои stories. Like, you don't know what to say, historia or why. So there's just the took English word one for one and just stories. Hey, we got 99 likes. If we can hit 100 likes, that'll be great. And we got about 15 more minutes. Let's see. I'm just checking the. They're about the same on the subscription, so we're good. We need 7 more subscribers to hit 90,000. That's pretty Pretty awesome. Okay. Could you do a running commentary on the Moss film so we can have a movie night? Yeah, I'm planning. I'm thinking about doing it. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I can try. There's some good movies, but it will be stop and go because I'll have to pause the movie and explain different situation, cars, what people do. It's really hard to explain why the scenarios keep on going. But yeah, it's on my list. Trying to come up with pick some good movie and see if we can do something like that, just to share my experiences. Did they have dentures in the USSR? I believe so. I don't know any information about that. Generally, dentistry was not the greatest in the Soviet Union. It was free, so you can't complain if you get something for free. But they had dentures, but I don't think they were that good. There's got comment from Walleye Walrus, no question, but thank you. It's apparent you work very hard to teach people. I appreciate your perspective and look into the society which was behind the Iron Curtain at one point. Well, thank you so much. I'm learning myself every day. So there's example. I'm right now putting together information to do a video for you guys about brushing teeth. um, and I'm like, started thinking about it. It's like, I don't remember, when I went to the village every summer to spend the summer break as a kid, and I thought about it like, I don't recall my grandparents ever brushing their teeth. So I sent my brother messages like, "Hey, talk to my mom, to our mom. Did her parents brush her teeth?" And I got the feedback or reply like, "Nope." And basically, no one in the village was brushing the teeth. And I checked with another friend of mine who also had grandparents in the same village, and he's like, "No, no one was brushing teeth." So I just learned something myself. I never thought about it. Um, but yeah, like people in the village, not many people were brushing their teeth. It was more like a city thing, but out in the country, people didn't brush their teeth. So I just learned something myself. So this is a amazing journey. I pay attention to these things that I never cared about before or never paid attention. So I'm learning myself. Like I learned we actually had in Soviet Union, we had an electric toothbrush. I didn't know about it. I never seen it. When I was getting information to show you pictures of the Soviet toothbrushes, like, holy crap, we had an electric toothbrush, but it was so expensive that it never made it. And we got a new member. Thank you, Emily, for joining my channel. By the way, it's one of the ways you can support my work. This is the capitalist way. You can become a member of my channel. I post some videos just for their views. I do some other things. So, as one of the way you can support me is to become a member of Ushanka show. There's several levels, and I'll be probably posting more stuff, more videos just for my members. I think I have about 50 members right now, so I appreciate your support because, as I said, quite a few of my videos YouTube were not promoting or taking out the monetization. How did Soviet Union viewed Romania during the Cold War? That's another donation from Carl in question. I heard both of them had complicated relations during the 60s and Ceausescu. Well, Romania, we kind of look at them as like gypsies, first of all. That's what I remember. Not me personally, but generally. The main problem was Romania. Romania was on the German side during the War II, and that was the biggest butthurt. After they became after they volunteered to become a members of socialist camp, there was like little tension because you guys were Nazis, but and the Romanian troops were actually fighting in Ukraine, in Russia, and they were famous for not being nice people. So that was, I think, like what I remember was the biggest beef towards Romanians, that they were traitors. Well, the problem we conveniently forgot, well, our historians forgot, and to tell kids like me that right before the World War II, or when already World War II was going on, but Soviet Union wasn't involved yet, that Stalin basically gave Romania ultimatum and took huge chunks of territory. Basically, we're going to start the war, And then we acting like we're so upset that Romania was on the German side. Well, you just attacked Romania, basically pointed a gun at you and took my wallet, and then you upset that I came back and tried to punch you in the face. Oh, I was like, well, I was a good guy when I took your wallet. I didn't deserve it. So that's, I think, was biggest thing with Romania is they were part of they were on the German side on the war, and their troops actually fought. But it's like I started thinking like, well, would you blame them? What Stalin Molotov did to Romania in 1940. A lot of my once again working on Ushanka show and talking to you guys, and kind of started thinking. I was like, man, there's an interesting comment. All you need to know is hollering "Comrade Гражданин, руки вверх." See, we never said "Comrade Гражданин," "Товарищ гражданин." You call someone "гражданин" or you call someone "товарищ." And towards the late 70s, 80s, "товарищ" was dying out. Was used only like during official meetings, like party meetings or labor union meetings. It's for those of you who guys are planning to work at CIA or other three-letter organizations. Гражданин, citizen, became kind of more, if you don't know somebody on the street, like a couple of militia approaching, like, гражданин, идите сюда. They won't call you товарищ. Товарищ is kind of friendly term. If somebody like it's a гражданин. So comrade гражданин, this is really, you'll get arrested as a foreign spy and you'll be in KGB in no time if you call someone comrade гражданин. It's гражданин or comrade, товарищ или гражданин, not two together, not a good idea. So just so you know, did you get ash in the air in your town? If you're talking about here in Michigan, we don't have ash, but today was really hazy. We got my neighbors in Ann Arbor, Michigan. I've been in Ann Arbor once back in the 90s. I was delivering fruits. There's a farm stand there that we brought peaches from Michigan. Hey, we got even Paris, France here. Bonsoir. That's awesome. Thank you for the stream. I just started reading your book and I'm really enjoying it. Thank you so much. I wonder, is it 95 or 96? Have you heard about Soviet synthesizers in the USSR? Did you know any music they used them? Yes, they had some. I was never into music, but I know they had several. Actually, this lady from Finland that recorded some mean comments, voiceovers for me, she found some in Finland. I think it was called Electronica. So they had some, and I can try to get some information on it. Like, I personally have no idea about them. Советские синтезаторы. Okay, all right. So we'll be wrapping up in about 7 minutes. About an hour, my voice, I started losing it. Oh, Jim Webb from British Columbia. Look at that. We got people from all over the place. Was ever anything like credit or debit cards? No, I don't recall any, and there was no checks either. We are pretty much a hardcore cash society. Um, there were some ways of using like kind of like a money order, but no credit cards, no debit cards. This was wild thing, and I describe in my book 1996 that behind me that I remember I was flying to LA, and everything was broken on that airplane. The radio didn't work, TV didn't work, so they decided to entertain passengers and had competition. There was a prize from the captain for the person who has the most amount of credit cards, and one guy had 13, and I thought he's a millionaire. I was like, wow, it's like doesn't look like a rich guy, but he had 13 credit cards, and I thought it's a sign that he's a millionaire. So no, this whole idea of credit cards and debit cards and even checks, that was a when I received my first payment here in America. If you read my book American Diaries 1995, I talk about it there. I was really kind of like, what do I do with this piece of paper? It says my name on it, but like, you had to go and you have to cash it. I was like, can you just pay cash? Like, what is all this weird system? So that was pretty interesting. Please share something about how Ukrainians experience breadbasket of Europe within the country. Well, I'm not sure, Jan, if I understand your question, but was always understanding during the Soviet Union that Ukraine was feeding Russia. That was kind of, I don't know, I don't have any data to support it, but it was always like we have, the collective farms, the Soviet collective farms, not Soviet collective, but Soviet agriculture farms. Everyone is working, everyone's busy, and then everything's gone. So they say, yeah, everything goes to Moscow. Like the village next to ours was, they were making cheeses, and I said, yeah, cheeses go straight to Moscow. We never see them in our stores. So that was the whole concept, that we thought, that Ukraine was feeding pretty much Russia and Moscow, and then if we will be independent, then we will sell our produce to the West. But of course, no one realized that no one wants our produce in the West. There's a comment from my one of my members, Hard Chuck, and he says, "Run for political office. We need people like you." Uh, I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger became a governor. I don't know. I'm a mixed basket, so I don't know if I can make anyone interested, because, for example, in 2016. I voted third party. I definitely couldn't vote for Hillary Clinton. It's just like I just couldn't. And then I listened to Trump. I'm like, holy crap, this guy. Yes, his wife is hot, but like, you don't vote because someone's dude's wife is hot. But even I'm a foreigner, but I was like, he's talking like a second grade guy. Like, his language is so primitive. I remember when I was writing my book, I was struggling to get rid of word things, and that's like his one of the popular word in his vocabulary. He just replaced everything thin, this thing, that thing. So I voted third party back then, and my wife still mad at me that I made Trump a president. So I don't know. Some of my ideas are left, some of my ideas are right. I don't mind to help people who's in trouble, like if they have financial problems. But my idea that if you go to the government and you ask for handouts for help, that help should be uncomfortable. Like, they own your ass. You went for the money, they give you money so you don't starve, the kids don't starve. But you should remember those days, like, man, I wasn't on the bottom, and government helped me out, but my goodness, they had a device on my leg. They always wanted to know where I am. I wanted to go to the bar or dance club. It vibrates and warn me that I need to be home with my kid. So it should be uncomfortable, because you sell your soul to the government, and government can do anything they want with you. That's my opinion. But it's not here. People just getting money, and they comfortable to live that lifestyle for years. And in my opinion, it should be uncomfortable. It should be, yes, we need to help people. Everyone can get in trouble somehow. And then, of course, with single parents, uh, I don't understand why they don't go hardcore after the second parent, because pretty much, if you're single mom, you know who the father is. There's no way you don't know. I mean, it's hard not to know. It takes a while, and there's a intimacy while you're making a kid. So if you go and ask for I need child support from the government because I don't know who's the father, it's you need to tell us who's the father. Or and the government that goes after the guy. So yeah, it's let's see where we're at. When you lived in the Soviet Union, did you remember feeling and witnessing prejudice against non-Russians or ethnic minorities of the area? Of course, absolutely. I have a video on this topic. We had plenty of racism towards people from Caucasian mountains, Georgians, Armenians. We call them blacks, like chorne. So yeah, absolutely. I mean, we had as a kid, you don't realize that, but a lot of times it's like Soviet people and racism. One of those videos that I think YouTube block monetization. Yep, monetization is limited because you're telling something we don't want you to tell. So, okay, so this just to give you guys ideas. So I made the video about racism in the Soviet Union. It received 18,000 views since 2019. So 4 years we have this video out. It got only 18,000 views. So YouTube is definitely choking it. And guess what? How much that video made? $8.45. So I made the video to tell you the truth about racism in the Soviet Union. And YouTube, like, yeah, buddy, you probably shouldn't do that. So yeah, I earned $8. Picture the time I had to record it, put it together, all that, and $8. So this is the realities of YouTube. If they want you to make videos about kitty cats and other silly stuff, okay, videos coming up. Do you follow Kit and Vuila? No, I never heard of it. Let's see what else. In your opinion, who is winning the war? I guess it's a question about war in Ukraine. Obviously, Ukraine is winning because Russia never planned actual war. They thought it'll be Crimea 2.0 scenario. They're just going to roll in, maybe some resistance here and there. So they never prepped on a big scale. And now it's, turning around. But if you look at the GDP of Russia, which is about less than 2% of world GDP versus countries that stay behind Ukraine, which is more than 50% of GDP. It's pretty much the question of time. Ukrainians are willing to fight. They're willing to die to defend their country. And with the help from the West, it's obviously that it's just a question of time. I mean, look what happened in Afghanistan when Soviet Union was trying to fight, United States, China, and other countries. This is pretty much a similar scenario. When people want to fight and have such a great support, uh, I strongly believe that that's what's going to happen. I just hope it will be as fast as possible. I just saw Oppenheimer. Yeah, we actually went there Monday to watch it too. Can you talk about experience of nukes in Russia? How did you feel as a kid? Well, I'll tell many times we were pretty worried in the late 70s, early 80s about Cold War and nuclear destruction. So yeah, I don't know anything about creating nuclear weapons. They never told us any stories, but yeah, that was pretty scary. Because I was if I had a one wish, that would be to world peace at that time as a 80-year-old kid. Hey, we got neighbors from Western Michigan. I'm about to celebrate my 26th birthday. Now, what was Sergey up to at 26? So I was in America in 1997. That's actually the book I'm writing right now. I had my birthday in July on the Bastille Day, and I had too much vodka. I bought a bottle of Popov, and I think I was stressed out, so I had all that bottle, and then I was puking, and I made a mistake. I put my beautiful Reebok sneakers right next to my bed. So when I couldn't get up, I was so drunk. So I puked right off the bed and filled my shoes. So that was my 26th birthday. Actually, I was writing about it a couple of days ago. I'm very late to the party. I remember talking to you when I bought a mattress from you. Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me? So for those who don't know, I used to run for my in-laws had a small furniture store and flooring store, and I worked there for a long time. And we sold Restonic mattresses. So I have a customer who bought a mattress from me. That's it. I hope that mattress still works good for you. Restonic mattresses, man. That's a good stuff. Made in Michigan, Escanaba, Michigan. Question from Waltman. I'm a history buff. What are your favorite Ukrainian and Russian historical events? Huh. I mean, like, if you talk about Soviet events, of course, it's a space race and Sputnik and Gagarin. Um, for Ukrainian, most of Ukrainian history is pretty much this struggle, being squished between Russia from the north, Poland from the west, Tatars from the south. So I can't even think of any good Ukrainian stories. And for the Russians, I mean, back then I was excited for them that they had Alaska and that they uh, can think of Peter the Great and his achievements. But of course, that changed a lot since I started studying history and looking differently on that angle. But yeah, Ukraine usually there's not many good stories you can think of Ukraine. It's always was a struggle. Did the East German solyanka dish originate from Russia? If it's called solyanka, it's definitely yes. My mother never cooked solyanka. I don't think I ever. It's like a cold borscht. I don't think I like cold borscht, so I never did it. All right, so we got a couple more questions. I'll be wrapping up. There's a question. Talk to us about Radio Armenia. Well, I had a video on that topic. Jokes. Yeah, that was a like Soviet humor jokes about Georgians and Armenian radio. So I do have a video on that. So that was one of the popular topics for the anecdotes is Armenian radio. And my favorite, I think, was that Armenian radio was silent for an hour, was not a single word, and then they announced in the end our program for the gluhonimые, so the people that can't talk and or hear our radio program is over, and now we're tuned to regular broadcasting. So that was my favorite Armenian joke that they for an hour they're doing sign language on the radio, doing a program for mute people. That's the word. So I think that was my favorite Armenian joke. What I can remember. Let's see. I'm gonna make sure I didn't miss your donations. Now look, I got everyone here. So yeah, I think I'll see you guys again probably Sunday or Saturday. I'll let you know in advance because we are two people away from 90,000. So hopefully it will happen tonight. I like to do the screenshot on my phone of that event. So that'll be cool. So yeah, Popov, it was a $3.75 back in 1997. So it was cheap as vodka. So yeah. Is it gonna be any more black and red readings? Yes, still. This is black and red. I still got some room to go. I'm getting distracted, but yeah, I need to finish that up. And then there's next book waiting about building a truck factory in Russia. That's the next project to look at. So, all right. Okay, one last question. And I visited a friend in Estonia and I gave him candies. He saved all the wrappers from the candy and folded in packets stored in the closet. Was this sort of thing normal in Soviet Union? Yes, I collected myself not the candy wrappers, but chewing gum. Chewing gum wrappers were like a big collector's items, and we actually uh, had games like you play against each other, and then if you win, you take his wrappers. So yeah, the Wrigley's, Double Mints, all those were like hot items. The Tutti Fruities, all those things. Yeah, if you get those, and I can really show you good. So just try to imagine. So you got your chewing right here. So you got this chewing gum. It's a big one, right? So it's usually threefold like that goes, and then there's a foil and a chewing gum. So you keep the wrapper. It's not exactly, but you get the idea. So what you do you lay it on the flat surface, and then you have your hand and you hit it. And what you try to do, you're trying to flip it by just hitting like this and creating a little vacuum under your um, hand. And if you flip, then he hits, and he doesn't flip, then you take his wrappers. So yeah, wrappers were big collector's items. Yeah, that was not the candy. I never had a foreign candy, but the chewing gum wrappers, yeah, we played a lot of games with those. Okay, so all right, so thank you so much for joining tonight. That was fun. Oh my goodness. So and I wanted to thank Cynthia he had a generous $20 donation. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. So yeah, I will see you guys soon. Next video will be coming about chewing gum, about brushing teeth. And then I need to return to black and red, finish that up, and then of course we got a lot of topic about mopeds and scooters. There'll be a lot of videos coming on that. So once again, thank you so much for joining. As I said, if you want to become a member of my channel, please do that. If you want to buy my books, please do that on sputnikov.com. So thank you so much, and we'll hit 90,000, and we'll meet you again. I'll try to make a longer live. I don't know if I can do it more exciting. Maybe I'll have a little pop-off, then we'll really celebrate. Okay, well, everyone, good night. Thank you so much for joining the Ushanka show. Goodbye. До свидания.